They say you never truly know someone until they show you who they are when the stakes are highest. I learned this truth on a cold February morning when the man I had loved for 7 years looked me in the eye and told me to choose between our marriage and our unborn child. But this is not just a story about betrayal. It is about what happens when a woman finds strength she never knew she had, and what happens when a man realizes too late what he has thrown away. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how my life fell apart and somehow, piece by painful piece, came back together in a way I never expected. It was early March, and I was standing at the bathroom sink in our Seattle home, staring at 3 positive pregnancy tests lined up on the counter. My hands were shaking, not from fear exactly, but from the overwhelming weight of the moment. I was pregnant. After years of conversations, arguments, and broken promises about starting a family, it had finally happened. I was 33 years old, and I was going to be a mother. I should have been happy. I should have been excited. But as I looked at those tests, all I felt was a knot of anxiety in my stomach. Because I knew, deep in my bones, that David was not going to react the way I hoped. David Mitchell, my husband of 5 years. The man I had dated for 2 years before that, the successful investment banker who always had a plan, always had control, always knew exactly what he wanted and when he wanted it. When we first met at a charity fundraiser downtown, I was drawn to his confidence and ambition. He had this way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the room. I was working as a high school literature teacher back then, spending my days with teenagers and my evenings grading papers. David seemed so different from the men I usually dated. He had direction. He had goals. He made things happen. Our courtship was intense and romantic. Weekend trips to the San Juan Islands, dinners at restaurants I could never afford on my teacher's salary. He told me he wanted a partner, someone intelligent and grounded, who could balance out his high-pressure career. I thought I had found someone who valued the same things I did: family, connection, building a life that meant something beyond bank accounts and business deals. We got married in a beautiful ceremony overlooking Puget Sound. My parents were there, crying tears of joy. My younger sister, Emma, served as my maid of honor. David's colleagues filled half the venue. It felt like the beginning of everything I had ever wanted. For the first 3 years, things were good. We bought a house in Queen Anne with a view of the Space Needle. We took vacations to Europe and Mexico. We hosted dinner parties and talked about our future. But somewhere along the way, David changed. Or maybe he just became more of who he always was, and I had been too in love to see it clearly. His work hours got longer. He traveled more frequently. When he was home, he was distant, always on his phone, always worried about the next deal or the next client. I tried to be understanding. I knew his job was demanding. But I also knew that we were drifting apart, becoming roommates who shared a space rather than partners who shared a life. And then there was the baby question. It came up constantly. I would bring it up gently at first, mentioning how lovely it would be to have children, how we had always talked about it before we got married. David would nod and say, soon, or not yet, or let us wait until after my next promotion. Months turned into years. My friends started having babies. My sister got pregnant with her second child. I watched everyone around me build the families they wanted while I waited for my husband to be ready. We started fighting about it. Real fights. The kind where you say things you cannot take back. I told him I felt like he had lied to me, that he had promised me a family and then kept moving the goalposts. He told me I was being emotional and irrational, that I did not understand the pressure he was under at work. He said we needed to be financially stable first, even though we had more than enough money saved. He said we needed to work on our marriage first, even though the only thing wrong with our marriage was his refusal to have this conversation honestly. Looking back now, I can see that David was scared. Terrified, actually. Having a child meant losing control. It meant his life would no longer be entirely his own. It meant sacrifice and compromise and putting someone else's needs first. And David had built his entire life around avoiding exactly that kind of vulnerability. But I did not see it that clearly back then. Back then, I just felt rejected and unheard. So when I stood in that bathroom staring at those positive tests, I knew I was facing a moment of truth. I could hide this from David. I could wait for the right time to tell him, but I had spent too many years already waiting for the right time. This was happening. Our baby was happening, and he needed to know. That evening, David came home late from work, as usual. He loosened his tie and poured himself a scotch before even acknowledging me sitting on the couch. I watched him move through our house like it was a hotel, a place to rest between obligations rather than a home. I waited until he sat down, until he finally looked at me and asked how my day was. And then I told him. Simple and direct. I was pregnant. 6 weeks along. I had taken multiple tests. There was no doubt. The color drained from David's face. He set his glass down on the coffee table with a sharp click. For a long moment, he said nothing. Just stared at me like I had told him I had burned down his office building. "You are sure?" he finally asked. "Yes, I am sure." He stood up and started pacing. Back and forth across our living room, one hand pressed to his forehead. I watched him process this information, watched him calculate and strategize, turning our baby into a problem that needed solving. "This is not good timing, Sarah," he said. "I am in the middle of the biggest deal of my career. I told you about the Singapore project. I am going to be traveling constantly for the next 6 months. We are not ready for this. We have been together for 7 years, David, married for 5. When exactly would we be ready?" He stopped pacing and looked at me. "You do not understand the pressure I am under right now. This promotion I'm working toward, it is everything I've been building toward. A baby right now would complicate everything." "Complicate everything," I repeated, feeling something cold settle in my chest. "That's how you see our child? As a complication?" he said, his voice taking on that patronizing tone I had come to hate. "We need to think about this logically. What about your job? What about our lifestyle? What about all the plans we have made?" "What plans, David? You mean your plans? Because I have been trying to plan for a family for 3 years, and you have shot me down every single time." The argument escalated from there. David laid out all his objections like he was presenting a business case. The timing was wrong. The financial burden would be significant. His career was at a critical juncture. We had not been getting along well lately. How could we bring a child into an unstable situation? I listened to him talk and I realized something devastating. He was not just scared or unprepared. He fundamentally did not want this. He did not want our baby. And maybe he had never wanted children at all. Maybe all those conversations about someday and when the time is right had been lies he told to keep me satisfied, to keep me from leaving. "So what are you saying?" I asked him. "That you want me to have an abortion?" David did not answer right away. He looked at me, and I saw him weighing his words, trying to find the angle that would get him what he wanted. "I am saying we should consider all our options," he said carefully. "We could terminate the pregnancy now, work on our relationship, and revisit the idea of children in a year or 2 when we are really ready." "Revisit the idea," I said, "like it's a business proposal we can table for later." "Do not be dramatic, Sarah. I'm trying to have a rational conversation." "There's nothing rational about asking me to end this pregnancy because it is inconvenient for your career." We went around and around like this for hours. David tried every argument he could think of. He told me we could not afford it, even though we had over $200,000 in savings. He told me it would destroy my career, even though my school offered excellent maternity leave. He told me we were too young, then too unprepared, then too disconnected from each other. But what he never said was that he wanted this baby. He He never said he was scared but willing to try. He never asked me how I felt or what I wanted or whether I was okay. It was all about him, his career, his comfort, his timeline. By the time we went to bed that night, nothing was resolved. We lay on opposite sides of the mattress, miles apart, even though we were only inches away from each other. The next few weeks were hell. Every conversation circled back to the pregnancy. David became more insistent. He showed me articles about the health risks of pregnancy. He talked about friends who had children and regretted it. He reminded me constantly that I had a choice, that it was not too late to fix this situation. But I had already made my choice. The moment I saw those positive tests, something shifted inside me. This baby was real. This baby was mine. And I was not going to end this pregnancy to make my husband more comfortable. I told David this over and over. I tried to be gentle at first. I tried to help him understand that I knew he was scared, that I was scared too, but that we could do this together. I promised him we would figure it out. I reminded him that he would be an amazing father if he just gave himself a chance. Nothing worked. If anything, my refusal to consider abortion made him angrier. He started treating me like I was being unreasonable, like I was the one destroying our marriage by refusing to bend to his will. He spent less time at home. He stopped touching me. He stopped looking at me with any warmth or affection. It was like he had already left our marriage emotionally and was just waiting for me to make it official by doing what he wanted. From then came the night everything fell apart completely. It was mid-March, about a month after I had told David about the pregnancy. We were in the kitchen after another silent dinner. I was washing dishes, and David was standing by the counter, nursing a glass of wine. Especially enough for them. I turned off the water and looked at him. Cannot do what? This, us, pretending everything is fine when you are forcing me into a life I do not want. I am not forcing you into anything, David. I am pregnant with your child. That is not something I did to you. That is something we created together. And I am telling you I am not ready for it. But you will not listen. You are so focused on what you want that you do not care about what this is doing to me. Strong, I felt anger flash through me, hot and sharp. What this is doing to you, David, I am the one who is pregnant. I am the one whose body is changing. I am the one who has been dealing with morning sickness and exhaustion while you act like this is happening to you. Because it is happening to me, he shot back. This baby is going to change my entire life, my career, my freedom, everything I have worked for. And you made this decision without me. I did not make this decision alone. We made it together every time we had sex. And you made your decision clear a long time ago when you told me you wanted children someday. Or was that a lie? David set his wine glass down hard. Maybe it was. Maybe I told you what you wanted to hear because I loved you, and I thought I could learn to want the same things. But I cannot. I do not want to be a father, Sarah. Not now, maybe not ever. The words hung in the air between us. This was the truth I had been avoiding, the reality I had refused to see. David did not want our baby. He did not want any baby, and he was never going to change his mind. So what are you saying? I asked quietly. David looked at me and his face was cold. I am saying you have a choice to make. Either you terminate this pregnancy and we try to save our marriage, or you keep the baby and I leave. Because I will not be forced into fatherhood. I will not have my life dictated by a decision I did not make. I stared at my husband, this man I had loved, this man I had built a life with, and I barely recognized him. You are giving me an ultimatum, me or the baby. I am giving you a reality check, he said. If you go through with this pregnancy, our marriage is over. I will file for divorce. You will be a single mother. Is that really what you want? If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel, and tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. I took a deep breath and looked at David, really looked at him. And I saw a man who loved himself more than he would ever love me. A man who saw our baby not as a blessing, but as an inconvenience. A man who would rather destroy our family than sacrifice an ounce of his comfort or control. Yes, I said. If that is the choice, then yes, I will be a single mother, because I will not kill our child to keep you. David's face went red. You are making a huge mistake, Sarah. You have no idea how hard it is going to be. Raising a child alone, working full-time, dealing with all of it by yourself. You are going to regret this. Maybe I will, I said, but at least I will not regret choosing my child's life over your approval. He left 3 days later, packed a suitcase, and walked out of our house without looking back. He rented a condo downtown near his office and threw himself into work. I heard from mutual friends that he was telling people we had grown apart, that we wanted different things from life. He never mentioned the pregnancy, never told anyone the real reason he left. And just like that, I was alone. The next few months were the hardest of my life. I was pregnant, working full-time, and trying to process the end of my marriage all at once. Some days I could barely get out of bed. I would stand in the shower, crying until the water ran cold. I would lie awake at night, wondering how my life had gotten to this point. Strong. But I had my sister Emma. She was furious when I finally told her the whole truth about why David left. She wanted to confront him, to tell everyone what he had done. But I asked her not to. I did not want David's reputation to be destroyed. I did not want to be the bitter ex-wife airing our dirty laundry. I just wanted to move forward with my life and protect my baby from the ugliness of our divorce. Emma helped me prepare for the baby. She came with me to prenatal appointments. She held my hand during ultrasounds. She helped me paint the nursery in our house, a soft yellow with white clouds on the ceiling. She made sure I ate when I was too nauseous or too depressed to cook. She reminded me that I was strong enough to do this, even when I did not believe it myself. David's lawyer contacted me in early May. The divorce papers were straightforward. David wanted a clean break. He would pay the minimum child support required by law, but wanted no custody arrangement. He was essentially walking away from our baby completely. I signed the papers without fighting. What was there to fight for? A man who did not want us. By mid-June, our divorce was finalized. I was officially a single woman, pregnant, alone, starting over at 33 years old. I went back to teaching in the fall, working until I was 8 months pregnant. My students were sweet about it. They asked me if I was having a boy or a girl. They told me I was going to be a great mom. Their kindness kept me going on days when I felt like I could not take another step. I never saw David during those months. He never called, never texted, never checked to see if I was okay or if the baby was healthy. It was like we had never been married at all. Sometimes I would wonder if he ever thought about the baby, if he ever felt guilty or sad or afraid. But mostly I just tried not to think about him at all. Then came a Tuesday morning in late September. I was 8 months pregnant, huge and uncomfortable, and counting down the days until my due date. I had a doctor's appointment that morning, so I left home early to avoid traffic. I was driving through downtown Seattle when I stopped at a red light on Pike Street. And that is when I saw him. David, standing on the street corner waiting to cross. He was wearing one of his expensive suits, holding a coffee cup, checking his phone. He looked exactly the same. Successful, put together, completely unburdened. I sat there in my car, my hands gripping the steering wheel, my enormous belly pressed against it. And I realized something that made my blood run cold. David had no idea I had kept the baby. In his mind, I had probably gotten an abortion months ago. He had convinced himself that the problem had solved itself, that he could walk away without consequences. He had never bothered to check, never asked, never followed up. He had just assumed that because I had not contacted him, because I had not demanded anything from him, That meant the pregnancy was over. The light turned green, and David crossed the street without ever looking in my direction. He disappeared into the crowd of morning commuters, completely unaware that his daughter was alive and growing inside me, just 20 feet away. I drove to my appointment in a daze. The doctor checked my vitals, measured my belly, listened to the baby's heartbeat. Everything was progressing normally. I was going to meet my daughter soon. In just a few weeks, I would hold her in my arms. And David had no idea. He had missed every ultrasound, every kick, every milestone. He had missed the moment when we found out we were having a girl. He had missed all of it because he had chosen to walk away and never look back. That night, I called Emma and told her what had happened. She was furious. She wanted me to contact David immediately, to force him to face what he had done. But I did not want to. What would be the point? He had made his choice. Forcing him to acknowledge the baby now would not change anything. He should at least pay proper child support, Emma argued. He should be held accountable. He is paying what the court ordered, I said. That is enough. I do not want anything from him, Emma. I do not want his money or his guilt or his reluctant involvement. I am going to raise this baby on my own, and we are going to be fine. Emma was not happy about it, but she respected my decision. She always did. My daughter was born on a rainy October morning. Her name is Lily Grace Mitchell. She came into this world crying and perfect, with a full head of dark hair and her father's blue eyes. The moment they placed her in my arms, I fell in love in a way I had never experienced before. This was my daughter, my baby, the child I had chosen over my marriage, over my husband's approval, over everything. Emma was there with me through the whole labor. She coached me through contractions, held my hand when the pain was unbearable, and cried with joy when Lily was finally born. I could not have done it without her. In the hospital room that night, I held Lily and whispered promises to her. I promised I would always choose her. I promised I would never make her feel unwanted or like a burden. I promised I would love her enough for 2 parents. And I promised that she would never question whether she was worth fighting for. Those first few weeks with Lily were exhausting and beautiful and terrifying. I barely slept. I learned how to nurse through cracked nipples and tears. I changed what felt like 1,000 diapers. I walked the floors at 3 a.m, bouncing and shushing, trying to figure out what my baby needed. But I also experienced joy I had never known. Lily's first smile, the weight of her sleeping on my chest, the way she would grip my finger with her tiny hand, the sound of her contented sighs after nursing. Every moment was precious, even the hard ones. Emma practically moved in with me those first few weeks. She did my laundry, cooked my meals, and held Lily when I needed to shower or sleep for a few hours. My parents came down from Bellingham to help. My friends from school dropped off casseroles and diapers and offered to babysit whenever I needed a break. I had lost my husband, but I had gained an entire support system of people who loved me and Lily. I was not as alone as I had feared. David never reached out. Not when Lily was born. Not in the weeks that followed. I wondered sometimes if he knew. If Emma had told someone who told someone else. And if the news had made its way back to him. But if he did know, he never acknowledged it. When Lily was 6 weeks old, I took her to the grocery store for the first time. I had her strapped to my chest in a baby carrier, and I was grabbing ingredients for dinner when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Sarah?" I turned around, and there he was, David, standing in the middle of the produce section, staring at me like he had seen a ghost. His eyes traveled from my face down to the baby carrier, to Lily's tiny head visible against my chest. "Oh my God," he said. You kept it." "Her," I corrected. "I kept her. This is Lily." David looked like he might faint. How old is she?" 6 weeks. He did the math in his head. I could see the moment the realization hit him. This was his daughter. The baby from that pregnancy he had walked away from. the problem he thought he had escaped. Sarah, He trailed off, clearly unsure what to say. You assumed I had an abortion, I said. You never asked. You never checked. You just walked away and convinced yourself the problem was solved. Period. I did not. I thought. David ran his hand through his hair, looking genuinely distressed for the first time since this whole ordeal began. Why did you not tell me? Period. Why would I asked. You made it very clear you did not want to be a father. You gave me an ultimatum. You divorced me rather than deal with this. Why would I force you into a role you clearly never wanted? Because she is my daughter, David said, his voice barely above a whisper. No, I said firmly. She is my daughter. You gave up the right to claim her when you walked out. You missed everything, David. The whole pregnancy, the birth, these first weeks of her life. You do not get to show up now and pretend you care. I do care, he said, and there were tears in his eyes. Sarah, if I had known, if I had realized you really were going to keep the baby, I would have, we said. You would have what? I interrupted. Been there, supported me. Because you had every opportunity to do that. And you chose not to. You chose your career and your comfort over your family. And now you have to live with that choice. Crying, I pushed my cart past him and walked away. I did not look back. I did not give him the satisfaction of seeing how much I was shaking, how much his presence had rattled me. Strong, that encounter in the grocery store haunted me for days. I kept replaying David's face when he saw Lily, the shock and confusion and something that might have been regret. Part of me felt vindicated. He deserved to feel that pain, to understand what he had thrown away. But another part of me felt sad. Sad that Lily would grow up without her father. Sad that David had been too scared and selfish to be part of something beautiful. Emma thought I should contact a lawyer, force David to pay more child support now that he knew about Lily. But I did not want his money. I had my teaching salary, my savings, and enough to provide a good life for my daughter. What I wanted was for David to leave us alone so we could heal and move forward. But David had other plans. 3 days after our encounter at the grocery store, he showed up at my house. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was in the living room with Lily, doing tummy time on a blanket. When I heard the knock, I assumed it was Emma stopping by. Instead, I opened the door to find David standing on my porch, looking nervous and exhausted. What are you doing here? I asked. I need to talk to you. Please, Sarah. Just give me 10 minutes. Every instinct told me to slam the door in his face, but curiosity won out. I stepped aside and let him in, keeping my body between him and Lily. David walked into the living room and stopped when he saw our daughter on the floor. She was wearing a little pink onesie, waving her arms and making happy baby sounds. He stared at her like she was a miracle and a tragedy all at once. She is beautiful, he whispered. What do you want, David? He tore his eyes away from Lily and looked at me. I have not slept since I saw you at the store. I keep thinking about everything I missed. Everything I threw away because I was too much of a coward to face my fears. And now you expect me to what? Forgive you? Let you be part of her life? I do not expect anything, he said. I know I have no right to ask for anything from you, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. I am so sorry for what I did to you, for abandoning you when you needed me most, for giving you that ultimatum, for missing all of it. His voice cracked. I thought I was protecting my life, my career, my freedom, but I was just running away from the best thing that could have happened to me. I wanted to stay angry. I wanted to hold on to all the rage and hurt I had been carrying for the past 7 months. But looking at David's face, I saw genuine remorse. Not just guilt over being caught, but real understanding of what he had done. You missed everything, I said quietly. I felt her kick for the first time alone in this house at midnight. I went to every ultrasound by myself, sitting in waiting rooms full of couples. I gave birth without you. I brought her home from the hospital without you. I have been up every night for 6 weeks, taking care of her alone. You do not get to just show up now and play dad." "I know," David said, "and I am not asking to. I am not asking for custody or visitation or anything like that. I just needed you to know that I understand what I did. And if there is ever a time when you think Lily might benefit from having me in her life, I want you to know that I will be there. However you want it to look, whatever boundaries you need, I will respect all of it." "Why should I believe you?" I asked. "You walked away once. What is to stop you from doing it again when fatherhood gets hard?" David looked at Lily again. "Because I have spent the last 3 days thinking about her constantly, wondering what she looks like, what she sounds like, whether she is healthy. And I realized that walking away did not protect me from anything. It just meant I was missing out on knowing my daughter. I was still affected by her existence. I was just experiencing it as loss instead of joy." I sat down on the couch, suddenly exhausted. "I do not know if I can trust you, David. You broke something between us that might never be fixed." "I know. And I am not asking you to trust me right away. I am just asking for a chance to prove that I can be better, that I can be the father Lily deserves." "This is not about you," I said firmly. "If I decide to let you into her life, it will be because I think it is best for her, not because you feel guilty or because you want redemption." "I understand." We sat in silence for a moment, both of us watching Lily on her blanket. She had grabbed her foot and was trying to put it in her mouth, completely oblivious to the heavy conversation happening above her. "I need time to think about this," I finally said. "And if I do decide to let you be involved, it will be slowly, very slowly. You will have to earn the right to be her father." David nodded. "Whatever you need. I will wait as long as it takes." He left after that. But something had shifted. For the first time since that awful February night when he gave me his ultimatum, I saw a glimpse of the man I had fallen in love with. The man who could acknowledge his mistakes and take responsibility for his actions. But I also knew that apologies were easy. Actions were what mattered. Over the next few weeks, David proved he was serious. He started with small things. He would text me once a week asking how Lily was doing, but never demanding to see her. He deposited extra money into my account without making a big deal about it. He sent packages to the house with baby clothes and toys, always with a simple note, "For Lily, if you think she needs them." Emma was skeptical. "He is just trying to manipulate you into letting him off the hook," she said. "Do not fall for it, Sarah." But I was not falling for anything. I was watching carefully, looking for any sign that David's change was temporary or performative. I needed to know that he was in this for the right reasons before I let him anywhere near my daughter. When Lily was 3 months old, I finally agreed to let David meet her properly. Not at my house, but at a park near downtown. Neutral territory where I could leave if I needed to. David arrived exactly on time, carrying a small stuffed elephant. He had dark circles under his eyes and looked nervous in a way I had never seen before. The confident, controlled investment banker was gone. In his place was a man who looked genuinely terrified. I was sitting on a bench with Lily in my arms when he approached. She was awake and alert, those blue eyes taking in everything around her. "Hi," David said softly. "Hi." He sat down on the other end of the bench, keeping distance between us. For a long moment, he just looked at Lily, his face full of wonder and grief. "She has my eyes," he said. "She does, and my nose, and her grandmother's chin. Would it be okay if I held her?" I hesitated. This felt like a huge step, crossing a line I could not uncross. But I also knew that if David was ever going to be part of Lily's life, we had to start somewhere. "Okay, but support her head. She does not have great neck control yet." I carefully transferred Lily into David's arms, showing him how to cradle her properly. The moment she settled against his chest, David's face crumpled. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he looked at our daughter. "Hi, Lily," he whispered. "I'm so sorry I was not there when you were born. I'm sorry I missed so much. But I am here now, if you will let me be." Lily stared up at him, studying his face with that intense baby focus. She made a small cooing sound, and David laughed through his tears. We sat there for an hour. David held Lily the entire time, learning the weight of her, the sound she made, the way she would grab his finger with surprising strength. I watched and fall in love with our daughter in real time, and something in my chest loosened just a little. When Lily started getting fussy, I took her back and told David it was time for us to go. He looked like he wanted to protest, to ask for more time, but he nodded and thanked me for letting him meet her. "Can I see her again?" he asked. "Maybe. Let me think about it." He accepted this without argument and watched us walk away. I could feel his eyes on us the entire way to my car. That night, Emma came over and demanded to know how it went. I told her everything, including how David had cried when he held Lily. "That does not mean he has changed," Emma warned. "Men can cry and still be selfish. Do not let your guard down." "I am not," I said, "but I also saw something today that I did not expect." I saw a father meeting his daughter for the first time and realizing what he almost lost. Maybe that is not enough, but maybe it is a start. Over the next few months, I let David see Lily once a week. Always in public places, always for limited amounts of time. He never pushed for more than I was willing to give. He showed up on time every time. He learned how to change diapers and make bottles. He read parenting books and asked me questions about Lily's schedule and preferences. He also started therapy. He told me about it one day when Lily was 5 months old. He said he needed to understand why he had been so scared of fatherhood, why he had chosen to run instead of staying. He wanted to make sure he never made those same mistakes again. "I am working on myself," he said. "Not just for Lily, but because I need to. I do not like who I was 7 months ago. I want to be better." I respected that. Change was hard, and the fact that David was putting in the work meant something. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. When Lily was 6 months old, I finally invited David to my house for a visit. It felt significant, letting him into the home where I had built my life without him. But Lily was getting bigger and more active, and it was getting harder to do these visits at parks and coffee shops. David arrived with groceries and offered to cook dinner. We spent the evening together, the three of us, and it felt almost normal, almost like a family. David made pasta while I fed Lily in her high chair. We talked about our jobs, about Lily's sleep schedule, about mundane, everyday things that felt significant because we were doing them together. After dinner, David asked if he could give Lily her bath. I watched from the doorway as he carefully soaped her up, talking to her the whole time, making her giggle with silly voices and gentle splashes. He was patient and gentle and completely present in a way he had never been during our marriage. That night, after David left, I sat in the nursery rocking Lily to sleep. I thought about everything that had happened over the past 8 months. The betrayal, the loneliness, the fear, but also the strength I had found. The love I felt for my daughter, and the unexpected grace of watching someone truly change. I was not ready to forgive David completely. Maybe I never would be, but I was ready to let him be a father to Lily. Not because he had earned it, but because she deserved to have both of her parents in her life if they were willing to show up and do the work. By the time Lily turned 1, David was a regular part of our lives. He came over 3 times a week, taking Lily to the park, reading her stories, teaching her to clap and wave. He never missed a pediatrician appointment if I invited him. He celebrated every milestone with genuine joy and wonder. My friends and family remained cautious. They remembered what David had done, and they did not want to see me hurt again. But I was not the same woman I had been a year ago. I was stronger now, more certain of my worth. And I knew that I was letting David be part of Lily's life from a position of strength, not weakness. For Lily's first birthday, we threw a party at my house. Emma was there along with my parents, my teaching colleagues, and some of the friends I had made in my mother's group. David came too, though he stayed on the periphery, not wanting to intrude on my celebration. But when it came time to sing happy birthday, David and I stood on either side of Lily's high chair, both of us beaming at our daughter as she smashed her hands into a small cake. In that moment, we were not a couple. We were not even really friends. But we were Lily's parents, and that meant something. After everyone left, David helped me clean up. We worked in comfortable silence, washing dishes and picking up wrapping paper. When the house was clean, David turned to me. "Thank you," he said, "for today, for everything, for giving me a chance to know her." "You are welcome," I said. "But David, I need you to understand something. This works because you have been consistent. Because you have respected my boundaries and put Lily first. If that ever changes, if you ever make her feel like she is a burden or an obligation, I will not hesitate to protect her from you." "I know," he said, "and I promise you, Sarah, I will never make her feel that way. She is the best thing that has ever happened to me, even if it took me too long to realize it." As Lily grew, the dynamic between David and me evolved. We were never going to be romantic partners again. That ship had sailed the night he gave me his ultimatum. But we became effective co-parents, united in our love for our daughter. David never asked me to take him back. I think he understood that some damage could not be repaired. He had hurt me too deeply, and even though he had changed, I could never fully trust him with my heart again. But I could trust him with Lily, and that was what mattered. When Lily was 18 months old, David met someone new. Her name was Jennifer, and she was a pediatric nurse who loved children. David brought her to meet Lily only after they had been dating for 6 months, and he asked my permission first. I appreciated that. Jennifer was kind and warm, and she treated Lily with genuine affection. I could tell she made David happy in a way I never had. They seemed to balance each other well, and honestly, I was relieved. It meant David had a full life outside of his guilt and regret over what had happened with us. I started dating too, though it was harder for me to trust anyone after what David had done. But eventually, I met someone. His name was James, and he was a social worker who understood complicated family dynamics. He never tried to replace David in Lily's life. He just became another supportive presence, another adult who loved her and showed up for her. By the time Lily was 3 years old, she had 2 parents who adored her, an aunt who spoiled her, grandparents who doted on her, and a growing village of people who wanted the best for her. She did not understand the complicated history that had led to her family looking the way it did. She just knew that she was loved. One evening when Lily was 4, David and I were sitting on my back porch while Lily played in the yard. She was singing to herself, pushing a toy lawnmower around and making up elaborate stories. "I think about it all the time," David said quietly. "What would have happened if you had listened to me? If you had terminated the pregnancy like I wanted?" "So do I admitted. "She would not exist. This incredible, beautiful little person would just, not be here. And I would have gone through my whole life never knowing what I was missing." "Would you have, though?" I asked. "Would you have missed her if you never knew her?" David thought about this. "Maybe not, but I would have missed the person I became by loving her. The person who learned that fear is not a good enough reason to run from the things that matter." We watched Lily play, this miracle of a child who had survived her father's rejection and her mother's fear, who had brought both of us to our knees and then lifted us up in ways we never expected. "Thank you," David said, "for choosing her, for being brave enough to do it alone when I was not brave enough to do it with you." "You are welcome," I said. "But David, you should know something. I did not choose her over you. I chose her for herself. She deserved to exist regardless of what it cost me." That was never really a choice at all. On Lily's 5th birthday, David did something unexpected. After the party, after all the guests had left, he asked if he could talk to me privately. We sat at my kitchen table while Emma watched Lily in the living room. David pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table to me. Inside were documents transferring a significant amount of money into a trust fund for Lily's future. Education, wedding, whatever she needed. "This is not about easing my guilt," he said before I could speak. "This is about making sure she has opportunities and security. It is about taking care of her the way I should have from the beginning." I looked at the numbers on the paperwork and felt tears spring to my eyes. It was more money than I had ever seen in one place. "David, this is too much. It is not nearly enough to make up for what I did, but it is what I can give her now. Please let me do this." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. This was not about money. It was about David showing Lily through actions that she mattered to him, that he was invested in her future, that he was not going anywhere. When Lily started kindergarten, both David and I were there for her first day. We walked her to her classroom together, took pictures, and fought back tears as she ran off to play with the other kids without looking back. Afterward, David and I went to get coffee, a tradition that had developed over the years. These little moments where we could talk about Lily, share our worries and hopes, and support each other as parents. "She is so confident," David said, watching through the window, as Lily showed another little girl her backpack. "She does not have any of my fear. She's been loved unconditionally since the moment she was born," I said. "That gives children confidence." "You did that," David said. "You gave her that gift by refusing to let my fears dictate her existence." Now, as Lily approaches her 7th birthday, I look back on everything that happened with a complicated mix of emotions. I am proud of the life I built for us. I am grateful for my daughter, who taught me strength I did not know I had. I am glad that David found his way to being a good father, even if it took him too long to get there. But I am also still angry sometimes. I am angry that I had to go through that pregnancy alone. I am angry that David made me choose between my marriage and my child. I am angry that Lily will never have parents who live together, who present a united front from the beginning, who made her feel wanted from the moment they knew she was coming. That anger lives alongside forgiveness and grace and love. It is all tangled up together, impossible to separate. And maybe that's okay. Maybe life is not about resolving every feeling into something neat and simple. Maybe it's about holding multiple truths at once and doing the best you can with the complicated reality you're given. Lily asked me recently why Daddy does not live with us. She's at that age where she notices that her family looks different from some of her friends' families. I told her the truth in terms she could understand. I told her that Daddy and I loved each other once, but that sometimes grown-ups realize they are better as friends than as married people. I told her that both of us love her more than anything in the world, and that she did not do anything to cause us to live separately. "But you wanted me, right?" she asked, her little face serious. "Both of you wanted me?" I looked into my daughter's eyes, and I told her the truth. "I wanted you from the moment I knew you existed. Daddy took a little longer to understand how much he wanted you, but now he does. And you are loved, Lily. So, so loved." She seemed satisfied with this answer and ran off to play. But the question haunts me. How do you explain to a child that their father initially rejected them? How do you make them understand that his change of heart was real and lasting without making them doubt their own worth? These are the questions I am still figuring out, the conversations I am still learning to have, the balance between honesty and protection that every parent tries to strike. David and I talk about it sometimes, how we will handle the harder questions as Lily gets older, how we will explain what happened without traumatizing her or making her feel responsible for adult problems. We have agreed that we will always be honest with her in age-appropriate ways, that we will never speak badly about each other in front of her, that we will present a united front, even when we disagree about things. Last month, David called me late at night. It was unusual. We usually only communicate about logistics and schedules. But he said he needed to talk. I have been thinking a lot about the man I was 7 years ago, he said. The man who walked out on you. And I realize now that I was not just scared of being a father. I was scared of love. Real love. The kind that asks you to be vulnerable and selfless and completely open. I had spent my whole life avoiding that kind of love because I thought it made you weak. And now? I asked. Now I know it is the only thing that makes you strong. Loving Lily, showing up for her even when I am tired or stressed or would rather be doing something else, that has made me more of a man than any business deal or promotion ever did. I did not know what to say to that. It was one of the most honest things David had ever said to me. I'm glad you figured that out, I finally said. Lily is lucky to have a father who loves her the way you do now. She is lucky to have a mother who never stopped fighting for her, David replied. Even when I tried to convince you not to. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. These days, life has found a rhythm. David has Lily every other weekend and one evening during the week. We alternate holidays and split summer vacation. We attend school events together and coordinate on big decisions. We are not perfect co-parents, but we are good ones. We put Lily first, always. James and I got married last year. It was a small ceremony with close family and friends. Lily was our flower girl, beaming in a white dress and scattering petals with abandon. David attended with Jennifer, and there was no awkwardness or tension. Just two families coming together to celebrate love and commitment. During the reception, David asked me to dance. It was unexpected, but I agreed. As we moved across the floor, he said something I will never forget. Thank you for not giving up on the idea that I could be better. A lot of women would have written me off completely after what I did. But you gave me a chance to prove that people can change. And that gift, that grace, it changed my life. I did not do it for you, I reminded him. I did it for Lily. I know, but it still mattered. You could have poisoned her against me. You could have made it impossible for me to have a relationship with her. But you did not. You let me earn my place in her life, and I will spend the rest of my days being grateful for that. I looked at David, this man who had broken my heart, and then slowly, painfully, rebuilt himself into someone worthy of our daughter's love. And I realized something. I had forgiven him, not because he deserved it, but because holding on to that anger was exhausting. Forgiveness was not about letting him off the hook. It was about freeing myself from the weight of resentment. You are welcome, I said simply. Now, as I write this story, Lily is upstairs asleep in her room. James is reading in bed, waiting for me to join him. David will pick up Lily tomorrow morning for his weekend, and they will probably go to the Science Museum like they do most Saturdays. My life is full and messy and complicated and beautiful. I think about the woman I was 7 years ago, newly pregnant, terrified, facing an impossible choice. I think about how I felt standing in that bathroom staring at those positive tests, knowing my marriage was probably over. I think about the nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I was making the biggest mistake of my life. And then I think about Lily, my brave, bright, beautiful girl, the child I chose even when it cost me everything, the daughter who taught me what real strength looks like, the little person who has brought more joy into my life than I ever imagined possible. Was it worth it? Losing my marriage, going through pregnancy alone, rebuilding my entire life from scratch. Every single day, I look at my daughter, and the answer is the same. Yes, 1,000 times yes. She was worth every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of fear and doubt. She was worth fighting for. And I would make the same choice again without hesitation. That is the truth people do not always tell you about motherhood. It is not about having a perfect situation or ideal circumstances. It is about loving someone more than you love your own comfort. It is about making the hard choice because it is the right choice, even when everyone around you says you are crazy. It is about believing that life has value, even when it is inconvenient or scary or changes everything you had planned. I chose life for my daughter when her father asked me to choose death, and that choice made me who I am today, stronger, braver, more certain of my own worth and my own values. David changed too. He became the father Lily deserves. But he would never have gotten that chance if I had listened to him 7 years ago. If I had let his fear override my conviction. If I had valued keeping him more than protecting the life we had created together. Some people say I should not have let David back into our lives. That he did not deserve a relationship with Lily after what he did. And maybe they are right. Maybe I was too forgiving. Maybe I should have kept him at a distance, made him suffer more for his choices. But I do not believe in punishing children for their parents' mistakes. Lily deserved a chance to know her father, assuming he proved himself worthy of that privilege. And he did. It took time and consistent effort and a lot of work on his part. But he showed up. He changed. He became the man our daughter needed him to be. That does not erase what he did to me. I still carry scars from those months when I was pregnant and alone. I still have moments when I look at him and remember the cold calculation in his eyes when he gave me that ultimatum. I still struggle to trust anyone completely after being betrayed so deeply by the person who promised to love me forever. But I also know that people are complicated, that we are capable of both terrible cruelty and genuine transformation. That the man David is now is not the same man who walked out on me. And while he can never undo the past, he can choose differently in the present. And that is what he has done every day for the past 7 years. As for me, I have learned that I am stronger than I ever knew, that I can survive things I thought would destroy me, that I can build a beautiful life out of broken pieces, that being a mother is the hardest and most rewarding thing I have ever done. That love is not always romantic or easy, but it is always worth fighting for. My story does not have a fairy tale ending. David and I did not get back together. We did not realize we were meant for each other and live happily ever after. Real life does not work that way. Real life is messier and more complicated, and requires more grace and forgiveness than any storybook prepared me for. But it does have a good ending. Lily has 2 parents who love her fiercely. She has a stepfather who treats her like his own. She has a village of people who support her and celebrate her. She is growing up knowing she is wanted and valued and cherished. And that is what matters. To anyone reading this who is facing an impossible choice, who is pregnant and scared and feeling alone, I want you to know something. You are stronger than you think. Whatever you decide, whatever choice you make, you can survive it. You can build a life you are proud of. You can find joy even in the hardest circumstances. And if you choose to keep your baby, even when everyone around you says you should not, even when the timing is wrong and the situation is messy, and you have no idea how you are going to make it work, I want you to know that you are not alone. There are millions of women who have walked this path before you, who have chosen their children over comfort or convenience or other people's approval, who have loved fiercely even when it cost them everything. You can do this. You are brave enough. You are strong enough. You are enough. To the fathers who read this and see themselves in David's story, I want to say this. It is never too late to change. It is never too late to show up. Your children need you, and they deserve better than your fear. Do the work. Go to therapy. Face your demons. Become the parent your child deserves. It will be hard, but it will be worth it. And to the mothers who are doing it alone, who are raising children without support or help or acknowledgement, I see you. You are heroes. You are making impossible sacrifices every single day, and even though no one is applauding, even though you do not get credit or recognition, you are changing the world. You are raising the next generation with nothing but love and determination and sheer force of will. You are enough. Your love is enough. My daughter Lily saved my life. Not in a dramatic way, but in all the small, quiet ways that matter. She gave me purpose when I felt lost. She gave me strength when I wanted to give up. She gave me a reason to become the best version of myself. She taught me what unconditional love really means. And I saved hers by refusing to let fear dictate her existence, by choosing her life over my comfort, by believing she deserved a chance even when her father did not want to give her one. You saved each other, and that is a love story worth telling. So here we are, 7 years later, a family that does not look like what I imagined, but is beautiful nonetheless. A complicated, messy, imperfect family held together by love and commitment and the daily choice to show up for each other. This is my story. The story of how I became a mother, lost a husband, found my strength, and learned that the hardest choices are often the most important ones. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this community where women can share their truths without judgment. Thank you for understanding that life is complicated and that there are no perfect answers to impossible questions. If this story touched you, if it made you think or feel or remember your own journey, please share it. Let other women know they are not alone. Let them know that choosing the hard path does not make you foolish. It makes you brave. And if you are facing your own impossible choice right now, whatever you decide, know that you have support. You have strength. You have everything you need to walk through this fire and come out the other side. Life has a way of working out, even when we cannot see the path forward, even when everything feels impossible, even when we are scared and alone and do not know if we can take another step. We can. We do. We survive. We thrive. We build lives worth living out of the rubble of broken dreams. And our children, these beautiful souls we chose to bring into the world despite everything, they make it all worth it. Every tear, every struggle, every moment of doubt, they are worth it all. That is my truth. That is my story. And I am grateful every single day that I was brave enough to live it.